Good, good morning. Sorry. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first pharmaceutical webinar at Every Dennison this year. Thank you for your interest in these challenging days when all industries need to review their strategies and adapt to different ways of work. We plan to do several webinars, starting with market trends and dynamics today, and we will continue with dedicated topics like adhesives. Different applications are security, small diameter labeling, sustainability, or intelligent labeling through the year. The pharmaceutical industry has contributed to significant improvements in patient well-being. Today's European citizen can expect to live up to 30 years longer than they did a century ago. The pharmaceutical industry is a key asset for the European economy. It is one of Europe's top-performing high-technology sector. The last 15 years, production revenue in the European Union nearly doubled and grew to 250 billion euro. Employment increased nearly one-third. Currently, this industry employs approximately 725,000 people in pharmaceutical industry, and the export grew more than tripled. Your speaker will be Eva Weglinska. Eva is a pharmaceutical product manager. My name is Gabriela Gregor, senior product manager, and I will be your moderator, handling the questions and the chat box. Please ask us questions in the field you can see once you scroll down below the main screen. You can also use the chat on the right-hand side for short questions or comments. This part you can hide on your monitor in case you need. Please keep in mind that both are public and visible for the entire audience. We apologize for not using cameras, but we continue to work from home and want to keep the connection strong. The webinar will be recorded and you will receive the slide deck after the webinar at the end of the day today. Today, we will have a look at the overall trends in pharmaceutical industry worldwide and also in Europe, also reviewing the position of the sector in government's GDP. We will also talk about how emerging trends impact the labeling industry in different application areas. What is the effect of COVID-19 and trends currently influencing market, investment, government and companies' decisions? The impact on different trends we will cover during the presentation, and you will receive the recording and slide deck having extra slide on COVID-19 impact. During the presentation, we will also talk about how the implication choosing the right label material will influence the trends and fulfill, for example, sustainability requirements. And now I would like to hand over to Eva to start with the outlook for the pharmaceutical industry. No, Eva, thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela, and good morning, everyone. So yes, as Gabriela mentioned today, I will speak about the main trends and developments in the pharmaceutical industry, which will impact the labeling industry. So not all of those trends that we can see, but only those which we believe will have the most impact on our industry. So I will start with a few key figures about the pharmaceutical production in Europe and the market developments. After, we will take a deeper dive into the selected trends and look into the opportunities that arise with them for our industry. Also, I will discuss the potential COVID-19 impact on those trends and movements in the market. So to start with, as you can see on the figure on your right side, the pharmaceutical production in Europe is growing year over year between 2014 2018, on average 4% per year. So in 2018, medicines for a total value of 260 billion euros were produced in Europe. Also, the production growth in Europe is associated with development of new medicines. The existing European infrastructure, manufacturing facilities, and modern R&D hubs make Europe an attractive place to invest in manufacturing, especially of new medicines. Also, the close proximity to the European market, which is nearly 1/4 of the global sales, plays its role. Now, what drives the sales in Europe is mainly increased demand for medicines due to the aging population. Also, the continuous rise in the non-communicable diseases like cancer, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, also depression. But of course, also the wealth and the governmental support of healthcare and welfare is an important factor here. Now, if we move to the total spending, public and private, on healthcare, on average, it accounts to 8.6% of European GDP. However, here the expenditure on healthcare varies across the countries, with up to 11.5% in France, with Romania on the other spectrum with only 5% of the GDP. Now, with the recent COVID-19 outbreak in mind, we will see an increase in healthcare expenditure in 2020. If we speak about the first 5 months in France, an immediate 8 billion euros for national healthcare system was released, which represents an estimated 3% increase versus 2019. In Italy, 3.2 billion additionally on healthcare related spending. Spain, 3.8 billion in medical expenditure. So those are the investments that now countries are forced to do. But also the crisis exposed the downside of another trend, which takes me to the next point, and that's the gradual migration of R&D and production to emerging economies. So as technology and capabilities of countries like China, Brazil, and India are expanding, on the other hand, their labor costs and manufacturing remain much lower than in Europe. Therefore, many large pharmaceutical companies decided to move their production to emerging markets or source at least APIs from them, active pharmaceutical ingredients. For example, in France, about 40% of the country drug ingredients are imported from China, while in the UK, only 50 to 60% of medicines are manufactured in Europe. So also with the current supply chain distress connected with the COVID-19, governments and public healthcare begin to realize that they are too much dependent on medicines from Asia. The majority of the APIs and medicines produced in Asia for European market are generics, which is also one of the fastest growing segments of medicines in Europe. So this brings me to the next point about the generic market. This market rose, its share rose to 62% in 2018, measured by volume, and also is expected to grow in the upcoming years at 5.8% per year. So the use of generics is widely supported by governments as a way also to provide affordable healthcare to everyone in Europe. This also connects to the next point, which is the prevailing parallel trade in Europe. So especially countries like Denmark, Sweden, and UK, European Union is recognized as a single market, and parallel trade is utilized as a mean to provide the same access to medicines at the same price across the EU. I will discuss this topic in more detail. Now I would like to move to the more detailed look at the medicines production per country, unless we have any questions, Gabriela. So then I will move to the next point, and this is pharmaceutical production per country. We will take a bit deeper dive here. So the pie chart that you see is showing the country contribution to overall European production in percentage. So as we see here, Switzerland remains the largest medicine producer in Europe, and also the second largest exporter of medicines after Germany. But also here, when thinking about Switzerland, we have to keep in mind that here, not the quantity of the medicines, but their values or their quality matters. Switzerland has considerably less pharmaceutical production than Germany. However, it focused on providing really bespoke pharmaceutical solutions, also innovative therapies. And then second after Switzerland is Italy. Italy contributes with 12.4% of the European pharma production. And in July 2018, Italy officially overtook Germany as Europe's leading pharmaceutical producer. It generated 31.2 billion in pharmaceutical value, compared to 30.5 billion for Germany. So they are close. However, the real growth story in Italy is foreign sales. So between 2010 and 2017, Italy's pharmaceutical exports grew at the rate of 26% per year, comparing to the European Union average of only 1%. So companies like Recipharm, Recordati, also Fresenius Kabi, and in fact more than 200 other companies are producing their medicines in Italy. As a third country, we see Germany. Germany with 12.2% of value of the pharmaceutical production. So as I said, close after Italy. So as Switzerland and Italy can be seen as more manufacturing R&D countries, Germany is focused really on manufacturing, with nearly 1,200 pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies operating in the country. Also, the majority of big pharma companies like GSK, Roche, Fresenius, Pfizer, they have their production facilities located in Germany, and they also invest in expanding their capacity and capabilities. So thinking about few latest examples, Merz Aesthetics, they are expanding their capacity, they are expanding their site for production of syringes in Dessau. GSK Vaccines in Marburg is finalizing the plant extension, including a deep freeze storage area. UCB Pharma will invest in a new biologic plant in Germany. So those are the ongoing investments. Now moving to the fourth country, we see France. France is contributing to nearly 9% of the total pharma production in Europe. Also, from the consumption point of view, France is the second after Germany largest pharmaceutical market. Now, if we look to the production with nearly 700 active companies in pharmaceutical manufacturing sector, companies like Sanofi, BE Vaccines, PX Therapeutics, or Virbac manufacture injectable medicines in France. The fifth country, and the last that I will analyze here, it's UK, with 8.2% of European manufacturing. So UK traditionally was one of the main producers in Europe. However, in the past years, several plants closed in UK, and their production moved to, as mentioned, also Asia. In 2011, Pfizer announced that it will be closing its entire research and development facility. Vaccine production site from Pfizer in Havant was closed by the end of 2019. Also in 2013, AstraZeneca announced its closure of its research and development activities. For the upcoming years, with the Brexit in mind, it might be that UK will become not a preferred place, but I guess here also the time will show. But recently, the NHS leaders and medical charities are calling for ministers to bring more drug manufacturing back to the UK, to reduce the risk of future shortages after the problems seen during this coronavirus crisis. So if we think about those 5 countries, they contribute to more than 50% of European medicine manufacturing. They are also leading exporters of medicines as their production exceeds the national demand. We have to take into account that every country in Europe has a degree of pharmaceutical production, with a mix of domestic and international companies. Now, with this, I would like to move to a deeper dive into generic medicines and parallel import. But before, I would like to ask Gabriela if we have any questions from the
Eva,
audience.
and it is actually related to the last topic you were talking. It is about if we expect any change
Thank
in
you,
the
Gabriela.
landscape
It's indeed
after the
interesting
Brexit.
development.
What we can say that yes, we can follow several movements on planned investments, as Eva already mentioned, but not only in production plan, but also in services, in functions, etc. For example, the relocation of the European Medicine Agency to Amsterdam EMA looks after the safety, the effectiveness, and qualifying the medicines for the European market. We also see, for example, movements in products and in people, especially in products, the export goods, expected that longer lead time can come in case of hard Brexit. Some of the UK products, like which is not produced in Britain, like insulin, can have a longer lead time. The marketing authorization holder companies cannot wait till the governments make an agreement. So they started to move their marketing authorization holders to the European to sites which are located in the European Union. Also, when we think about people, for example, there is a large concern about attract talents because the pharmaceutical industry is very R&D intensive, high quality people working in this sector. And the concerns, for example, from UK side is about to attract talents outside Britain. But the same valid for EU because EU will lose a lot of highly qualified expert after UK is moving out. Due to the fact that in United Kingdom there are several different kind of organizations, laboratories, which contributed a lot to the European Union registrations. So when I want to summarize it, yes, Brexit will change the European pharmaceutical landscape, not only from production, but also from product, service, and also from people side. And now I will hand back to you, Eva.
Development. And I will now move to the topic of mentioned earlier generics and the parallel import in Europe. So I would like to discuss them together because the reasons for their increasing popularity and their impact on labeling is quite similar. Also, generics, similar to parallel trade, are increasingly popular because of their contribution to affordable medicines for everyone. And on the other hand, they are a point of concerns for pharmaceutical companies. So, as I mentioned, the objective of the parallel trade is to offer Europeans original supply of medicines at a lower price. And the EU policies are restricting any activities which might limit this. So this is in the single market, parallel traders, they can buy pharmaceuticals in any EU country and then move those medicines to the destination market, also in the European Union, and sell them at a lower price than the standard local price. So they are going into competition with the same identical product sold by the manufacturer on its local licensee. So those sales from parallel trade can make up to 26% of sales in the pharmacy, like in the case of Denmark. So you can see this also on the figure. So this creates a sizable savings for public healthcare insurance, also for pharmacies and also for patients. So it is estimated that those savings can reach over 200 million euros per year. So the advocates of the parallel trade believe that pharmaceutical companies use price discrimination to get the maximum profit from every market in Europe. On the other spectrum are the parties who claim that markets should be segmented and prices also should be fixed because they are reflecting the relative need and the demand and also the purchasing power in a particular country. But as I mentioned before, those medicines, when they are imported from one EU country to another, they had to be repackaged and relabeled to comply with the local regulations and be also readable in the local language of the destination countries. Now, this creates a need for supply of labels that are suitable for relabeling procedures. So they have an optimal opacity. Also, they have a good adherence to the substrate, which often is the original label, which can be also varnished, coated, and most likely it's already printed. Now, we will be discussing how to choose the right materials for those type of applications in our next webinar. But nevertheless, the overall outlook for the parallel import looks positive. There are no signs of legislation that could limit this activity. And now I will look to the other numbers on the chart. You see the generics. So generics are usually produced by the manufacturer who is not the inventor of the original product. And they are marketed when the intellectual property protection rights are exhausted. So because of those generic producing company is copying the formulation developed by another company, so the patent holder, they don't have the R&D cost associated with the development of those medicines to recover. That's why, as a result, they can offer the same medicine at a much cheaper price. Also, generic medicines create better value for health at many different levels. They increase access to medicines for all patients. They improve the health outcomes by improving the cost effectiveness. And also they improve the medication adherence by reducing the financial burden for the patient that can buy those medicines at a much lower price. So if we look into the percentage of sales per country, we can clearly see that generics are particularly popular in Poland. So this is mainly due to the organization of the healthcare system in the country, where the vast majority of people are using the public healthcare system. This healthcare system is subsidizing almost exclusively generic medicines. And this results in a significantly lower average prices of medicines in Poland. In fact, only 44% of the EU average. On the other hand, however, the access to the new therapies is very limited, as people are simply don't want to afford them if they have to pay it for them from their own pocket. So, as we already established, generic medicines are considerably cheaper than the original counterparts. Now, incredibly, 62% of prescription of dispensed medicine in Europe are generic, yet they account just to 29% of the total expenditure of the medicines. So it is estimated also that without this competition from generic medicine, this level of access would cost Europe an additional 100 billions of euros every year. For these reasons, also many people believe that it is essential to foster a dynamic and competitive generic manufacturing sector in Europe. What does it mean for label? Well, generic medicines have the same labeling requirements as the standard branded medicine. However, the generic manufacturers are much more price sensitive. Therefore, materials that are compliant, yet in good price are in demand. For label producer, it is also good to look for a more versatile solution in labeling materials that can be used for multiple customers with the assurance of good performance. So a kind of one size fits all. As we also look into the acceleration of this segment growth caused by COVID-19 outbreak, also as its business and especially the government look into repatriating the generics production from Asia, mainly here China and India, back to Europe. However, here it is not clear what would be the impact on the price of those medicines. Also, this will certainly be a long process that will take probably years to complete. Now, this will already move me to the next point. It's the growth of generics are also increasing in the competition in the pharmaceutical industry and the race for new medicine developments. Before we discuss this, I would like to ask Gabriela if we do have any questions.
Yes,
Tilly, not only
Eva,
for
we have a
fashion.
special question from Italy asking, why do we think that the Italian market is increasing so much? Let me just shortly answer it. So what we see, the real growth story is coming that the foreign sales is increasing. The export is in Italy is growing. It is approximately plus 26% yearly. If we compare it to the European average, where is it plus 1%? It reached in 2018 approximately 25 billion euro. What we also see, there are a lot of vaccine manufacturers are in Italy, and as we know, 70% of the vaccines are usually exported in Europe, but also worldwide. Europe is contributing roughly 85% of the vaccine production, and a large portion is in Italy. I hope, Fernando, that I answered the questions, and I will hand back to you, Eva, now.
Also for medicines. Now, let me move to the next one. So as I mentioned, now I will speak about the new medicine development. Well, of course, recently this topic is trending even more as all of the major big pharma and the numerous of pharma biotech startups are in the race with time and also with each other to find the vaccines for COVID-19. As of March 2020, nearly 80 trials are running for new treatments and also for possible vaccines for COVID-19. Here, the main reason why the speed to market is so critical is the pandemic situation we are in. However, the pharmaceutical companies are also struggling to bring the new medicines to the market as soon as possible, also to be able to recover their cost before their exclusivity also will expire. So if we think about the patent is active for 20 years. However, taking into consideration the long development, the approval process, the patent life remaining on a product at the time of its approvals, at the time when it reached the market, may be only 7 to 10 years. So this is the time the pharmaceutical company has to recover their cost and generate profit before the generic counterparts will reach the market and, of course, dilute the price. So this is stimulating for the pharmaceutical companies to innovate and continuously work on new therapies. As we can see also on the graph on the right, the total size of the R&D pipeline reached nearly 16,000 potential treatments in 2019, and that's an increase of roughly 260% in less than 20 years. Similar situation you can see can be noted for the amount of pharmaceutical companies with active R&D pipelines, reaching nearly 5,000 in 2019. Now, the good news is that 26% of those companies are located in Europe. So whenever companies are struggling to deliver a life-saving therapy or trying to recover their R&D costs, in this setting, the speed to market becomes more critical. But think about this, that delivering the medicine to the market, it's not only the medicine itself, but it needs to be a ready product. So also its primary, secondary package, labeling, the supporting documentation. So here the label manufacturers can support those pharma companies by selecting for them reliable and tested materials, which will have a lower failure risk, which might eventually delay the release of a medicine if the package is not ready. So how to choose the right material, we will be discussing during our next webinar. Gabriela will give you more details at the end of this session. And for now, I would like to ask if we do have any questions from the audience, Gabriela.
Yes, we have one
Thank you,
interesting
Gabriela,
one,
and I
I
will
think
move
it will
to
be
the
interesting
next
also for
point.
the other ones. The question is, what percentage of pharma labels need to be manufactured in an approved pharma factory, which requires specific certification, and what certification is generally needed, and if we can assist. So just generally, there is no percentage what have to be manufactured for the pharmaceutical industry, but I would say it is more on a company's capability. Because pharmaceutical companies are asking different requirements like secure the supply chain, having safety stocks in place, doing 100% control, etc. So there are several requirements. The companies are getting audited and the customers are more or less going through all their points of what they need to be able to supply to this industry and these end customers. I hope, Jan, I answered the question. In case not, just please drop us an email and we can discuss offline. Thank you, Eva. I will move back to you. No, this time not.
Which is
Thank you,
the
Eva.
injectable market. So injectable medicines, they come in a variety of packaging: ampoules, vials, cartridges, pre-filled syringes. So this market is expected to grow at a growth rate for the next 4 years, 12%. So if we look specifically into the auto-injectable devices, their growth is mainly driven by the prevalence of diabetes and also increasing amount of people in need for insulin. So auto-injectors are easy, convenient, and safe to use by patients at home. Also, the adoption of the oncology-related drugs is increasing the popularity of injectable devices. However, in Europe, one of the most important factors contributing to their growth is the increasing popularity of biologic medicines. If we speak about biologics, we talk about medicines manufactured in a living system, such as a microorganism or a plant or even animal cells. So because of this, those medicines tend to be much more sensitive to temperatures, also to changes in the process. And of course, the best way to preserve them is in a liquid solution. That's why the majority of biologic medicines are administered in a liquid form, so by injection. They are gaining its popularity because they are effective. Currently, they represent around 30% of the pharmaceutical sales in Europe. Also, if we look into the future, 60% of new medicines molecules marketed in Europe are biologics. When we think about packaging materials and especially labels, because of the sensitivity of those medicines to temperatures also, it is important to choose products that can be applied and stored in chilled environments, because this is also the storage area for those medicines. Also, for the visibility of the products inside, usually it needs to be the so-called clear on clear. So really labels that can allow people to see what is inside the syringe or the injector. Also, migration can become critical, especially when medicines are delivered in plastic containers. Now, another medicine, not exactly medicine, that comes in an injectable device or ampule or vial are vaccines. And indeed, Europe is the largest manufacturer of vaccines, accounting to 75% of global production. So every year, 1.7 billion vaccines are produced in Europe. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, of course, we can expect that there will be a demand for millions, actually, if not billions of vaccines worldwide. This will bring a significant increase in demand also for packaging of those products and eventually labels. So with this positive outlook for injectables, I would like to move to the next trend. But before we go on, are there any questions, Gabriela? Thank you very much.
Yes,
And
we
I
have
will
one.
now move to the next trend, which is not really connected to pharmaceutical industry itself, but directly to the pharmaceutical packaging. And those are intelligent labels. So RFID, NFC solutions. So the intelligent labels are finding many applications in the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry. From one side, they are connected to the improvement in the inventory management. On the other hand, also patient engagement, security, brand protections. So for now, there are many reasons why the adoption of IO is accelerating. First of all, more and more patients, including also the older people, have access to internet and have also better computer literacy than, say, 20, 30 years ago. Also, the popularization of mobile devices, so your smartphone. So this allows companies to improve the patient adherence and monitor the therapy effectiveness by introducing packaging, which can be scanned by the patient, where he or she can be taken to a personal site or app where they can store the data on the therapy, also the progress, the doses taken. And because the RFID tag is unique, it cannot be easily copied as, for example, a QR code. So also the technology allows patient and brand protection against counterfeit medicines, also when combined with the tamper-evident features of the packaging. And those counter medicines are actually a business that is reaching nearly 200 billions per year. Also, unfortunately, the recent news are suggesting that the counterfeit medicines trade flourished under the supply chain disturbance caused by the COVID-19, of course. So the World Health Organization has recently warned against a surge in fake medicines. Interpol's Global Pharmaceutical Crime Fighting Unit seized 11 million euros of dangerous pharmaceutical in just 7 days. So that's only 1 week. This will certainly prompt the brand owners to enchase their product, also to enhance their product and brand protection system in the near future, for sure, and in the same time, accelerate the further adoption of RFID to the market, but also probably boost the demand for tamper evidence solution. If we look to the healthcare industry, hospitals and clinics also can utilize RFID technologies to track their assets like surgical instruments, medicines, samples from patients in a more efficient and reliable way. They can also improve the inventory accuracy. Well, 99% accuracy is really achievable. So another application for is patient tracking, for example, via an RFID-enabled wristband. So patient tracking can improve the hospital operations. Also, as visitors can directly be led to the patient, or if a patient forgot a doctor's appointment and can be easily tracked down in the hospital. Of course, on the other hand, there are ethical considerations that come to play, as this may interfere with patient privacy, as you are being literally continuously monitored where you are, and still not what you do, but at least where you are. Nevertheless, RFID technology really has numerous solutions. Now, our most recent example, it's also our collaboration with the blockchain startup Suku to deliver a digital verification solution to authenticate COVID-19 testing kits. So this is an NFC-powered platform that enables instant verification of authenticity of the kit. Those products are equipped with the NFC tag, which the user can scan with his or her phone. The data from the mobile engagement then confirms the authenticity and the provenance of the test kit. This solution also allows organizations to access real-time data from the test kit results. So then they can make an informed decision about the allocation of doctors, facilities, also resources. And then additionally, by opening this communication channel with healthcare officials, the solution will also provide patients with guidance on appropriate behavior in case they receive a positive result. We will be discussing RFID and NFC solutions, the intelligent label platforms, in later this year during a webinar. I also strongly encourage you to join one. And if we don't have, do we have any questions, Gabriela, from the audience?
And it is related to RFID topic. How RFID developing in healthcare? So what we see when we look the healthcare and pharma market, that is one of the fastest growing segment in RFID and in UHF RFID. It is really outspacing frequencies and it's faster than logistic, retail, or consumer packaging goods. We see that the adoption rate at the drug manufacturers is growing. Some reports indicate year-on-year growth approximately 10%. There was even a study conducted in US to find a solution for the drug track and trace from Drug Supply Chain and Security Act from FDA. Because in 2023 November, there should be a next level of track and trace implemented in US where the products need to be traced on unit level, not only on box level like we have the batch numbers now in Europe, but also on unit level, on MPU level. What we also see is very strong interest from unit serialization. That is the part where companies are asking for different type of questions. Inventory management is also, especially in hospitals, as Eva mentioned, is now quite a hot topic in several European countries. So when I can summarize it, we expect that intelligent label will be the major contributor to patient safety, and it will have its roles in track and trace systems, in inventory management in the future. And now I will hand back to
Thank
you,
you,
Eva.
Gabriela, and I will move to the last but not least in our trends overview, and that's sustainability. So we already see the shift in consumer demand when it comes to consumer goods, mainly food, HPC, also beverage. And as we can see, 68% of consumers in UK claim that the environmental impact of a product packaging affects their purchase. Now, 77% of Germans and more than 80% of people in Spain do agree with them. So shoppers really began to pay more attention to packaging. also, when they are purchasing these products, how much there is this packaging, how large it is comparing to the product, how complicated will it be to sort for proper disposal. So those are the considerations that they really do have when they approach the shelf. So as of today, actually, for our knowledge, there are no studies that were conducted which would give an ultimate proof that the consumers will have the same opinions and the same preference when they shop for over-the-counter medicines. However, we believe that this will become more significant in the future as the environmental awareness is rising, but also simply because those grocery shoppers are the same consumers who will also purchase the OTC medicines. So another driver here, it is also the rising spot on medicine disposal. Also, for now, they are only guidelines for the pharmaceutical packaging from the NGOs and also from the European Commission. So there is no legislation in place. However, the guidelines are there. However, also as pharma is one of the main industries, the companies itself, they become more aware that they have to contribute to the global efforts to reduce the carbon footprint and also provide a relief to the environment. Now, if you look also to the annual reports of major pharma companies, today, next to the discussion about the financial results, the R&D pipeline is also progress on sustainability efforts. So, for example, Sanofi is aiming to recycle, reuse, or recover more than 90% of its waste generated by 2025. Also, during the World Economic Forum in January this year, AstraZeneca announced their Ambition Zero Carbon strategy that is aiming to eliminate emissions by 2025 and, in fact, to be carbon negative across the entire value chain by 2030. So for us, packaging manufacturers, also including the label industry, can support those companies in achieving their goals by introducing recycled materials, recyclable materials, or simply reduced materials. So in the case of this last one, the reduced materials, sometimes a really small change can bring a significant impact. For example, by removing 10 microns from a PP label, we can save 11% of fossil materials, which is equal to 71 barrels of oil. We can use 4% less of water, which equals 1 year drinking water for 50 people, use of 6% less energy, and generate 8% less of solid waste at disposal. So when we talk about the amount of 50,000 square meters, and this is only by reducing the thickness of the face stock by 10 microns. And don't forget that we can still make the liner thinner. So definitely, we will be taking a deeper dive into sustainability in pharma topic later this year during a dedicated webinar that you will have a chance to join. Now, before we move to the conclusions, are
No,
there any
Eva,
questions,
not anymore.
Gabriela?
I think we answered all of them.
Okay, thank you. Then I will shortly recap our session. So we discussed today the 5 main topics during the last 45 minutes, which I have to admit was a challenging task for me. We were talking about generic medicines and parallel trade, which will continue to grow as it brings affordable medicines to Europe to Europeans across the continent. We also discussed the importance of speed to market for new medicine developments and its increased importance in the future because the market will become even more competitive. We looked also into injectable devices, which are gaining their momentum because the biologics and also the positive outlook for vaccines. The last 2 trends connected directly to pharma packaging I outlined were intelligent labels, which can provide support to patient, brand owners, and healthcare institutions in a variety of ways. And yes, last but not least, sustainability, which although still not in mainstream, is gradually reaching the pharmaceutical industry and surely will influence the packaging decisions of pharmaceutical brand owners in the future. Now, from my side, that's all for today. Thank you very much for your participation. I hope to see you during our upcoming webinars, and I wish you a nice day. I will hand over now to our moderator. Gabriela, back to you.
Thank you very much, Eva. Can you move the slide? Perfect. I think Q&A we skipped. We answered all the questions during the presentation. Then I would like to thank you for joining. As you see, the next webinar will take place on the 30th of June, and it will be dedicated to pharmaceutical adhesives and face materials in our product range. As already indicated, other topics will be covered during the years as the security and brand protection, sustainability, intelligent labels. Finally, I would like to introduce you the pharma team. We are ready to support you on different applications and questions related to product, market, compliance questions according to your need. Thank you for your attention and speak to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.